The InstaClients Funnel. This is literally the simplest funnel that I've ever implemented. It doesn't require any technical websites or fancy funnels or any of those things or automations. It is also one of the most low cost that I've ever used, and also the quickest journey from a cold lead, not knowing you from a bar of soap, to closing as a client. And I've had a client close as little as 48 hours. Now, that is definitely not typical. That is the minority. But just to signal what is actually possible with this funnel. And again, just in terms of my experience personally, I work within the Middle Eastern market mostly, as you know, with women coaches, obviously, as you know. And it's one of the things that surprised me most about this funnel was coming into the year. I think we generated in the region of around $10,000 specifically with this funnel. And then with that, I came to the conclusion that this is literally the simplest, quickest funnel, highest returning funnel, most scalable funnel, and no tech funnel that I've ever used ever. Some of you heard me speak about it before, calling it the InstaClients Funnel. And that's basically what I want to break down for you today. Today is really just to give you an overview of how the pieces work. And then in our next sessions, we can dive into the more tactical view of each of those components and how they work together. Okay, so how do we attract high-paying clients specifically on Instagram and get to our first 5 to 10K per month, and also above, depending again on your niche and your team and other restraints that you might have. Okay, if we have a team in place, like a marketing person and a designated salesperson and a designated coaching person, this is something that you can quite easily scale to multiple, I would say, even multiple six figures without being pushy, without any heavy technical fancy websites or setups or automations. And even if you don't have a big following, and in fact, this is one of the things that solves the problem of not having many followers that are your ideal clients. And that's such an important distinction to make. I've said this before, but I've spoken to a few coaches before who have hundreds of thousands of followers, right? So 100,000 followers, 200,000 followers, close on even 300,000 followers, who have the challenge of they don't have consistent clients coming to them, even though they have so many followers. And in fact, I've repeatedly seen quite a lot of not just coaches, but other service providers and entrepreneurs actually go and remove followers because they want to make sure that the followers that they do have on Instagram and even other platforms are in the pool or domain of their ideal clients. Okay, so this also is one of the things that solves those problems, because obviously the higher the more followers that we have, we live in a world where there's a higher sense of credibility, brand presence, and that kind of thing as well. And of course, this is going to depend on the niche that you're in. Some niches are super micro and small, like my niche is quite micro and narrowed down. Some niches are bigger, and then there may be varying variations between coaches. All right, so with that context, let's dive into the strategy. I would say there are 4 steps to the strategy on how to attract high ticket or high paying clients. And again, that's going to mean different things to different people. I would say in as little as, let's call it 7 hours, not 7 hours, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, could be more, could be less, just depending again on the coach and the context. Everyone is a little bit different, without any technical setup. And of course, as we know, without being pushy or salesy. In the Middle East, we already know that people certainly are more skeptical than ever. All right. And so we want something that is going to be very authentic and professional and non-salesy. Okay. So the first thing, as we know, of course, is our niche. There are 3 main pillars to our niche, as we know. There is who, what, and then how, which I'll do in a second. So the who is just, what is the profile of the person that you are working with? Career professionals, stay-at-home moms, new entrepreneurs, millennials, boomers, like however you want to define them, as long as we have a pain point that is actually high enough for this person to be willing to pay to have it solved, and also that we have a profile of somebody that is actually able to afford what we have to offer. Okay. And then the next thing is that you have somebody who is in some kind of pain or frustration, and they want to get to a place of pleasure and satisfaction. Okay. And we want to try and identify where they're currently at, that's point A, and where do they want to be, and what's the thing that's actually holding them back, where they are stuck. Maybe it's a lack of confidence. They don't know how to lose weight. They don't know how to get promoted. They don't know how to launch their group program. They don't know how to recover from narcissistic abuse, as an example. And I'm just using some examples from some of the niches here. And then 3 is the how, which is the step-by-step framework. So there might be like a 3-pillar framework on how to overcome narcissistic abuse, a 3-pillar framework on how to launch a group program, a 3-pillar framework on how to reconnect with your spouse or your loved one, on how to deal with ADHD or whatever the niche is. And so we want to identify, what is that signature framework that helps this person get from point A to point B. Then the next thing is your online presence. You need to be visible. It's no use you have the cure to cancer, but nobody knows about it. So you've seen this graphic before in the sea of all the other coaches out there. So those are all the other coaches out there in the marketplace. And your audience is feeling stuck and they're looking for a solution. I'm just going to go ahead and mute that microphone real quick. Okay. And a lot of these coaches over here are completely invisible. Not because they're not good at what they do. In fact, some of them are amazing. Some of them have PhDs, but they're just not visible. And visibility is becoming more and more and more important. And certainly in the age of coaching saturation, the coaching market is just growing and growing and growing. AI, skepticism on the rise, etc., etc. And so you want to be positioned as the go-to authority for this specific person so that you are very easily discoverable. Okay. And so what are one of the things that helps with that? That is your bio. And in your bio, you're going to have one of these phrases, which I call the niche statement. You can call it your mission statement. You can call it your marketing message. I like to call it the 3 pillars of your niche, or your niche statement. And that's basically, I help who. So that's going to relate to that. With what specifically? So I help them get from, this pain over here to that pleasure. Ideally, we want to have some kind of time frame in 30 days, 40 days, 60 days, 14 days. Some people might have a 7-day challenge. And then very important, without something that they hate doing, without, in my domain, without being salesy, without get promoted in 30 days, without spending hours on LinkedIn, without doing tons of certifications and courses. And so in the marketplace of all of the people that you could be helping, so for me, for example, of all the coaches that I could be helping, I'm helping mainly women, mainly from the Middle East, mainly ages 35 to 45 plus sometimes. Mainly those who have some kind of a faith orientation or a family kind of orientation or value, right? And those who are impact orientated, right? It's not just about the money for them. So out of all of the people that I could be helping, and this is really something more like this, right? This is like the broader coaching market. I'm really helping that little segment over there. And so think about it. If you live in a small village and there's only one brain surgeon in that whole village, Who is the go-to no-brainer person to go to if you have something wrong with your brain? It's going to be that brain surgeon. And that's essentially what you're wanting to do. Again, you want to be able to position yourself. You want to set yourself apart. You want to be more visible for the kind of coaching that you're doing. All right. And ideally, we want to find people that have a high pain level around the problem that you're solving. That's the most important. And also are willing, obviously that's going to come into willingness, but also they are able to pay for this thing. All right. So if you have a product that is positioned for, let's say, local Emiratis, high net worth Emiratis in Dubai, you might have a very different pricing and value perception than if you were targeting lower level or mid-level kind of blue or white collar workers. Okay. Even if you have the same program, it's going to be a very different kind of cost. Okay. And again, I'm just going through some of the main steps here, and we can go into more detail, and we can also have a Q&A afterwards. Does that make sense so far, everyone? If you could just give me a thumbs up. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I think some of us have already been through some of this. I just want to consolidate all of this. Okay, cool stuff. So the next thing is the offer, which is like, what's the thing that we are actually selling? This is so important, and I've seen so many coaches kind of get a bit mixed up here. We do not want to be selling, ideally, a coaching package, because people don't care about coaching. They care about the problem. And so rather than thinking coaching, like a lot of these coaches over here, you want to think about a transformation offer. Focus on the transformation. For example, for me, there was a very big shift when I shifted from I do business consulting for coaches to 30-day get paid clients, 30-day business accelerator, 30-day client attraction accelerator, right? And so we want to be thinking in terms of offers over here, and ideally high ticket offers. So I'm just going to put your high ticket. You obviously have a lot more time leverage. So instead of charging $200 or $100 or $50 per session or per package, you want to be selling. And again, this is going to depend on your niche. For some people, high ticket is $1,000. For some people, it's $2, $3, $4, $5. For some people, it's 20, 30, 50, right? Again, so it's just going to depend. And so if my goal is 5K per month, as an example, and I'm selling, I'm selling like at $50, like I need like 100 clients. That's a lot. Or if I'm selling at $500, I need 10 clients. That's still a fair amount. If I am selling at 2.5K, I just need 2 clients. Or if I'm selling at 5K, I just need 1 client. So you get the main idea here. You have a lot of leverage. Okay. You have a lot more leverage. You're making a lot more money. You tend to attract more serious clients. Because of that, you have more transformation, you have more testimonials, all of that stuff. All right. So we really want to be aiming for high ticket. Okay. So what is an offer? Just to make this visual, your dream client is stuck out here at point A in their relationship, in their business, in their mental health, in their ADHD, in their whatever kind of coaching you're doing. And they want to get to their treasure island. Okay, so that's treasure island. That's their goal. That is point B. And what you're doing is you're coming along as the expert. So that is you. You're the expert. And you're giving them your signature framework. And they're saying, so this is the who, this is the what, and then this is the how, right? And you're coming along and you're saying, hey, I can help you with this thing. If they believe in that and they're like, wow, this is somebody that can help me, then they have 3 options. option one, and this is your value ladder. Option one is they can decide to, let's do it like this, take this framework and they want to do it on their own. So I'm going to call this, DIY. So they're just taking the framework, all right, at a very low cost or even for free. I typically do this free of cost. So I give away my master classes for free. Okay. So either they go there or they say, this is amazing. I want to get there quicker and easier. Can you help me? And then you might have a option where you said, yes, I can help you. So this is called done with you. So I'm going to come alongside you and I'm going to help you to get there. But I'm going to be helping quite a few people at a time. So that is in a group. Okay. So that is option two, and that's going to cost more. Let's use the example of, let's just call this, 2K. For some of you, it might be 500 if you're starting out. For some of you, it might be 1,000. For some of you, it might be 10,000. Okay. It just depends. And then there might be some people, perhaps even a smaller percentage, although not always the case, who say, your framework is amazing and I like you. You're very cool and authentic and professional, and you've actually done this 1,000 times. You know what? I want you to help me get there step by step, like kind of like VIP, one-on-one. And that would be also done with you, except here it's one-on-one. So you are basically giving them the same framework, but different levels of support. All right. And so this might be, again, we're just using different examples here. This might be 4K, it might be 5, it might be 10, it might be 20. Okay. And so what we see here is it's the same framework that we are offering. And that's why it's so important to have a signature framework. That's my signature, a signature framework that you can offer at different levels of support. Obviously, the more personalized it is, the more premium. Okay. Does that make sense so far? Does that really simplify your offer? Because I think with coaching, where we get stuck is that, oh, we can help so many people in so many different ways. But that being said, it doesn't mean that we can't have some kind of a systematic framework to help somebody to get from narc abuse and to get out of that to be free. There are 3 main pillars, right? And Haya will be able to tell you about that. If you want to launch your group program as an online entrepreneur, as a coach, as a freelancer, and you have no clue how, I bet there's about maybe 3 or 4 pillars to get there, right? If you had to ask Marta as an example, right? And so, and for me, if you have a coach who's starting out or making some money and they want to be able to have a consistent flow or a machine that brings in consistent clients, right? I have a 3-step framework, right? And even today, I'm sharing with you a 4-step version of that framework. Okay, so exactly the same framework, just different levels of support. Make sense, everyone, so far? I just want to make sure that we're still on the same page here. Okay, great stuff. Wonderful. So we have so far the niche, online presence, and the offer. Next thing, how do we get clients coming in consistently? And that's where the funnel comes in. So all of this is to prepare for the funnel. The no tech InstaClients funnel. The reality is the following. Let's start over here. We have people who don't know us at all and have absolutely no reason to trust us because it's the online world. Why should I trust you? And people are even skeptical. We want a way to nurture, to firstly get people to know us They need to know that we exist. Then we need to get people to kind of, let's call it like us, warm up to us a little bit more. So that ultimately we have the scenario where somebody trusts us to the degree that if they were looking for help in this area and you were a good match, that you are the go-to professional for this, they like and trust you enough to pay you to have their problem solved. How do we get from here to here to here? Well, that's a funnel. So there's going to be the top of funnel. There's going to be the middle of funnel. There's going to be the bottom of funnel. There we go. Let's make it a bit broader. There we go. So the idea is here at the bottom is that we want to establish our goal. Let's just call it, let's call it 5 to 10K. That means that we need to have a certain number of clients coming in at a given price of our offer. Now we might have a low ticket and a high ticket version of that offer. Okay, so we might have a high ticket version, we might have a low ticket version. If my high ticket is $5,000, I need one client to get to $5,000. If my high ticket is 2.5K, I need 2 clients to get to $5,000. If I'm selling low ticket offers, right, and I might sell a high ticket offer, but then downsell into a low ticket, the group version of your offer, as an example, which then might be, let's say, $500 to $1,000, right? That means I need like 10 to 20 clients, 10 to 20 low ticket clients, or I might have a mix of them. All right. So this number is going to look a little bit different from person to person. Okay. So let's start at the top of the funnel. We need leads, highly qualified leads. So is it enough that we have tons and tons of leads? No, because I could have tons of fuel in my car, but if it's not the right fuel, my car's not going to run. My car is a petrol and I put in diesel fuel, it's not going to run. Okay. And so we want to make sure that we have the right leads and also the right amount of leads. And that's one of the biggest challenges that I see with coaches is they're not bringing enough leads, okay, to really go down through that funnel. All right. So just to give you the phases here, once we have leads coming in, people land usually on our page. And so they're going to have a look at our bio and they're going to ask, like, is this somebody that can actually help me? So you want to be that lighthouse that attracts those people. Okay. As soon as they see your bio, even in your name, there needs to be an obvious sense of, oh yeah, this is it. Okay. So it needs to be obvious, specific, and attractive. The same with your offer. The next thing is that they're going to look at your content. Sometimes they just look at 1 or 2 pieces of your content and they're asking, can this person help me? Can I trust them as a professional? And also, are they likable? So you want your content to be authentic and authoritative. So you want to be an authentic authority, essentially, in terms of your personal brand. And by the way, building a personal brand is probably the biggest, most important thing that you can do. Unfair advantage, the biggest asset that you can have. All right. So, and that's part of what builds that. Then from there, you want to have conversations. Just to give you an idea, a 6-figure business takes about 100 conversations a week, more or less. And of course, that's going to vary from niche to niche, coach to coach, market to market, and all of those things, but just use that as a benchmark. So if you're aiming for a 6-figure business, just think 100 conversations, all right? Convos lead to cash. For those taking notes, write that down. Convos lead to cash. Okay. So we want to be having conversations. And then from there, we want to be having calls. I call them quick win calls. And we're not going to go into exactly why. The main idea is you are helping somebody solve a narrow problem that is painful. You're helping them to remove the splinter out of their arm. You are helping them to scratch that thing that has been burning the whole time. Or rather soothe that scratch. You're helping them with like an immediate problem, which then reveals another problem. So the idea is just to help them. And then if they're looking for help, you present an offer. And if they end up being the right fit, they become clients. And that's how you take them. Those are the different phases on how you get somebody who doesn't know you at all, who is your ideal client, to then know you. And we're going to get into that in a second. But once we've gotten them to know us, then they land on our bio, they check our content, we have conversations with them. Some of those people we're going to book in as calls. We're going to help them with a specific problem where they now are satisfied. Thank you so much. You've done such a great job. Can you help me further? And that's when you show an offer, and then they become clients. The people that aren't looking for help, we don't show an offer. Very, very simple, right? We're not yet to be pushy or salesy or anything like that. And the person that does the selling and the convincing really is the prospect, right? And that's how this entire system, this whole client acquisition system is designed. And certainly also how you structure this call as well. How do you close these deals at the end? So how do we get people to know us? Is everyone following so far? I'm just pausing there for a moment. Just want to do a quick pattern interrupt. Okay. We're still good? All right. So you're going to have two main ads. The one is to get followers. Now, these aren't really followers. These are really like leads. Of course, they are followers, but they are leads. I would rather have one qualified follower lead than have like 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 followers. Okay. And the framework is very simple. It is a 45, let's say 45 to 60-second video reel with the framework. I'll do it on this side. Are you a who? That is your ideal target audience. Struggling with what, or who wants this thing? If so, call to action. And the call to action is follow me. So this ad is bringing in followers. And again, they're not just followers, they're actually qualified leads. And that's the framework. 1, 2, 3. 3-step framework. And in our next sessions, we can go into more detail in terms of what this looks like. So once they have come in, then they're going to probably check your bio or your content. Sometimes the conversation happens first. And in the conversation, what you're going to do is you are going to, let's do this in yellow. It's going to be an intro, a reach out, which will go something like, hey, Jane, this is Warren speaking. Just reaching out to say, thanks for the follow. I hope you enjoy my content. If it's designed mainly for these kind of people, which are like them. If there's anything you feel you need support with in this domain, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, wishing you all the best and God bless. You know, that's what I say. And a lot of you who are in the program and watching the recording as well of this would have some familiarity around that journey because it's the same funnel, perhaps, that you've been through. Then the next thing is we want to try and diagnose the problem, right? So we want to ask, like, where are you currently at? How are things going with your coaching? Now, for some of you, you are in a niche. For example, hey, you're not going to say, you know, how are things going with your narcissistic abuse situation? No, you're going to say, hey, what got you interested in my page? Not everyone's going to respond, and not everyone's supposed to respond in the same way that we don't respond to just everyone, right? So there's going to be a certain percentage of people who will respond. And again, the more content, the longer that they've been in your ecosystem, the longer that they've seen your content and so on, the more likely they will be to open up and say, hey, well, currently this is what I'm navigating, right? In my domain, how are things going with your coaching? Oh, I'm just starting out and I'm struggling to get clients. Okay, so now we know where they are currently. We want to then identify where are you, what are your main goals? Like, what's your dream outcome out of this? What would you ideally like? We want to try and establish what that is. And then we want to establish what's the biggest thing that's holding you back from getting to where you want to be. And what you're doing here, you are actually creating tension, the tension between where they are and where they want to be. And what this does is it gives you permission. In the same way, you don't go to a doctor and the doctor says, here's the medication. You'll be like, for what? She first diagnoses you, does a test, maybe like does your temperature, all of that stuff. And obviously, I think the dream outcome is obvious. I want to be able to, doctor, I've had this headache for weeks now, and I just want it to go away so that I can just think clearly and I can be present with my kids and I can, and then, where are they currently stuck? I tried to drink water. I tried fasting. I tried to cut out sugar. But I just can't seem to get rid of this headache that I currently have. And so you want to picture this as if you are a medical professional helping a patient. All right. And what that does is it gives you then relevancy. And if you feel that they are a good match, okay, which a lot of them should be because you've targeted them properly here and you've diagnosed this problem, then you would say, offer them to jump on a quick call where you would just basically map out your signature framework, either map out your whole framework like I'm doing today, or maybe just a piece of that framework. Like, hey, based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like you're currently stuck here, and what you really need is a this and a that. If you like, I have a 4-step method. I have a 4-step method that helps my clients actually to achieve this. If you'd like, I'm happy to jump on a quick 35-minute call, 35-minute call, where I can walk you through the steps so I can help you solve the specific problem. The call would be free of cost, but our time would be quite limited, and there would be some homework to do before the call. And always give them some kind of homework. So that could be like your masterclass or a training or something that's going to be relevant so that when they do get to the call, they have already consumed some of your content. They already have covered some of the basics of your framework so that you don't have to start from zero. You can start from like 40% and then help them with that problem. So that at the end of this call, ideally, we've helped them so much where they're like, this was amazing. And the feeling is, for those clients who it would be a match for, the feeling is, ideally, I've gotten so much value from this person in this short space of time. Imagine what it would be like, having them on a more consistent basis. And then if they are looking for support and there are certain questions that you ask and that kind of thing, then you would present an offer and then they become a client. There's a certain percentage of them that become a client. And again, you're looking for a small percentage of people. What happens with the people, you're giving this call away, and then what happens if they don't become a client? Easy. Ask them for a referral. Hey, do you know any other people who are stuck in this challenge and wanted this? Referrals become new leads. Testimonials also translate oftentimes into new leads and greater perceived credibility and value of it, a likelihood of achievement in terms of what you can provide. There's more trust and social proof. So you can that helps you to increase your pricing as well and your overall brand equity. And of course, the most important thing here is that you're building your brand. So the more people that I help in this coaching space in the Middle East, the more people that I help, the greater my brand presence becomes. Because what happens? Then people start speaking. They're like, oh yeah, you're struggling to get clients. Oh, well, I've got a client attraction system. Oh, where did you get that from? Oh, well, this guy, Warren, he helps coaches in the Middle East. Right. And so that is very, very powerful over there. And again, that also contributes to new leads, higher brand presence, higher visibility, higher prices and higher conversions, higher, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So it really is and worst case scenario, you're just doing what you love. So it's a win, 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 win. That's also kind of why, sometimes call it the quick win funnel. All right. And then the last piece of this is, this is the one ad. Do that. And then there's another ad that you can place over here afterwards. And this is a messenger ad. Good news. It's also a super short ad, exactly like this. The only difference is I'm targeting it. I'm targeting my existing followers. And so the framework is all exactly the same, except the only difference is the call to, I'm targeting my existing followers. So these people that have already come in here, I'm targeting them. And the call to action is an action word. Comment the word clients and I'll show you how it works. Comment the word recover and I'll show you how it works. Comment the word group and I'll show you how it works. Comment the word heal and I'll show you how it works. If you're a working professional in the Middle East and you're stuck with multitasking, micromanaging, and you can't really get to managing your team confidently in the way that you want to. So that's if you are who, and you're struggling with what? My name is Molly Jane, and I'm a team coaching specialist or team leadership specialist. And I have a 4-step framework that can help you to do this. Comment the word team, and I'll show you how it works, right? That wasn't a great example, but you get the idea. For me, if you're a coach, if you're a coach from the Middle East, making less than $4,000 per month, and you're struggling to get consistent, high-paying clients each month, perhaps you don't know what your niche is, you don't know what your offer is, you don't know how to sell with confidence without being weird and salesy. If that's you, I've got a 4-step framework that can help you to get to your first 5K per month, have consistent clients flowing in each month without being pushy or salesy. DM me the word clients and I'll show you how it works. Right. And a lot of you have we've gotten to know each other and gotten into a client relationship, professional relationship because of this specific ad. And that goes straight into, again, into your conversations. The only difference is your intro is not going to be, thanks for the follow. It's going to be, hi, Jane, it's Warren here. I noticed your comment for my 4-step framework to help you to bring in consistent clients. In order to give you the right resource, can you let me know real quick what kind of coaching you do and what your goals are at the moment? And so that starts the conversation. Okay, so now she's going to tell me like what the goals are. So I just want to establish what is point A then. Okay, and what, so Jane, if you're currently just starting out, what's your biggest challenge? What's the biggest thing that's holding you back from getting to your first $4,000 per month? She says, well, I don't know how. I don't have the confidence. I don't have the certification. I don't have the whatever. Okay, well, based on what I'm hearing you say, you know, you don't have the confidence. You don't have, you feel like you're struggling to stand out. Well, I have a 4-step framework that helps my clients to attract consistent clients in 30 days, more or less, without being salesy, without technical websites and stuff. I'm happy to walk you through the framework on a quick 25, 35-minute call if you like. The call would be free of cost, but of course our time is going to be limited. The idea is just to give you an overview so that you have some clarity and confidence. And of course, there would be some homework to do as well beforehand in the form of a 45-minute training. If that's of interest, let me know, and I'm happy to send over the link. And then she's like, oh, thank you so much. That's great. Great. I'll be here for another, however long you'll be. I'll be here online for another 10, 15 minutes. Here's the link. Let me know if you find a spot and I'll confirm from my side. So there's this sense of continuity and urgency, not just like, oh, here's a free link, whatever, so that there's some structure, there's some leadership in that. And then they book a call. And then there's a couple of other things in between, but then you have the call. If they are someone who is an ideal match, again, you present the offer, they become a client. And that is the InstaClients Funnel in a nutshell. All right. And then, so over the course of the next few sessions, we will dive into the different aspects that you need more clarity on. How do we launch the ad in Ads Manager? Super, super easy. I'll show you how to do that. How do you, let me just run through this. So how do we find our niche? Okay, so that's already on the platform. right? So you don't need this. How do you establish your signature framework from that? Like, how do you do that? You can do that literally in less than 5 minutes. I've got a GPT that I created. Comment the word GPT in the chat. So that's easy. Your online presence, I've got a framework on how you can actually do that as well. So we've got a framework for that. How do you structure your offers in this different way? So, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. We might touch on that as well. But then things like, how do you script your follower ad? How do you shoot your follower ad? How do you launch your follower ad? How do you do it with your messenger ad, your retargeting ad? You know, how exactly do you have these conversations? We have frameworks for that as well on the platform, by the way. And of course, we can break that down as well. What is the structure of this call? This is very critical. This is kind of like a sales call, except you're not being salesy. It's a client enrollment call. So it's like a complimentary coaching call, but that's just very specific and narrow in solving a certain problem. And then that leads into a closing call for the people who are actually interested in working with you. How do you present your offer, and how do you close clients? And I think there's a couple of other things as well. There's one more thing that I forgot here, which is your personal transformation post. We've also got a framework for that. That is super, super important. And basically what it is, very simple. It's just an image. You can do this on Canva. This is me before I had this transformation. And this is me now, or today, or recently, where I've overcome this problem, which kind of gives you a sense of qualification in terms of doing this. And this was the journey that I went through. So 1, 2, 3. This is the journey. I did this, that. And that's essentially a signature framework. If you resonate with this, call to action, give me a follow. All right. And then you pin this post as one of your first posts on your page, so that when people see, and oftentimes people relate to this, they're like, whoa, like for me, a lot of people have resonated with, you know, on mine. I'm like, I went bankrupt a few times. I was let off my job. I had ADHD. I was very scattered. I had low confidence. I had all of these things, right? And people are like, oh my goodness, I resonate with that. And surprise, surprise, what kind of people do I tend to attract? People that also had or have ADHD, and they want to learn to channel that as a superpower, you know, because that became my superpower, as I say in my thing. You know, I was bankrupt a few times. I was let off my job. Consistent full-time business that's allowed me to travel, be present with my family, etc., etc. What kind of people do you think I tend to attract? People that want to be more present with their families, right? That care about impact. And so this is a huge targeting mechanism, and even a sales tool, if you want to call it that. All right. So anyway, that is it. I'm going to open up for a few questions. We only have 4 minutes left, but if we do have any questions for clarification, I will take those questions now. Okay. So we have a question here. Andrea said, so basically you're looking for the problems, not the people. You're looking for the person who has a certain problem, and from that problem, they have a certain pain that you are wanting to solve. The person, problem, pain, that's a copywriting framework, right? And so it's the who and the what. The who is the person. The what is the point A and B, the pain and their dream desire. Just to answer that, then, Marta, how much do you spend on ads? I'm just going to share you quickly, because this is really critical, actually. Thanks for asking that. We want to ask ourselves, in order to have 5K, okay, and let's say I have an offer at 2.5K, okay? So that means I need 2 clients. Maybe those people pay in installments, so maybe it's more. Maybe let's just call it like 5 clients. Okay, so how do I get 5 clients per month? I need to give how many offers to get 5 clients? If I have a 50% conversion rate, that's 10 offers. Let's say it's less. Let's say I need to give 15 offers per month, right? And again, that's nothing. Okay, if my conversion rate is 30%. In order to have 15 offers, how many calls do I need to have? Maybe it's 25 calls per month. That's not even one a day. So 25 calls. In order to have 25 calls, how many conversations do I need to have? Maybe 40 conversations. That's not even 2 a day. In order to have 40 conversations, how many new leads do I need to get? Maybe that's 80 leads. Okay. So the question becomes, how do I get 80 leads so that I can have 40 conversations, so I can have 25 calls, so I can have 15 offer presentations, so I can have 5 clients, so that I can have 5K per month, 10K, or whatever your thing is, 2K, 3K, whatever that is. If this ad costs me, I think we can do $2 per lead, $160 per month. So it costs $160 to bring in 80 leads, 40 conversations, 25 calls, etc., so that I can have 5 clients. So it costs me the client acquisition cost. This is very important. CAC, client acquisition cost, is $160 to make $5,000, right? Or maybe it's $4. Let's just use the example of $4, right? That's going to be $320 per month in order for me to make 5K per month, as an example, or maybe 3K per month. So if I'm paying, for example, let's just call it 3K, just to be very conservative. To make 3K per month, it costs me around about 320. That is like nearly a 10-to-1 ratio. That is extremely high. And that's what's so beautiful about the coaching consulting service-based model, is that my overheads are so low. We want at least a 3-to-1 ratio to have it be profitable. And usually it is way, way, way above 3, which is great, even up to 10. Because once we have that, then we can print money. Because if it costs me let's just call it $300 in order to make $3,000. Well, if I want to make 6K, what do I do? Times two, that's going to be, then it costs me $600. If I wanted to make 30K, then it's going to be times 10. Of course, the other constraint then is then your capacity to deliver on that. All right.